for decades. The FIFA World Cup belonged to football's traditional giants: Brazil, Germany, Italy, Argentina, France. African nations were often dismissed as outsiders, expected to entertain, but never expected to compete. Yet history tells a different story. Again and again, African teams have shocked the world, defeated champions, inspired generations, and forced football to rewrite its own expectations. These weren't just victories, they were moments that changed the World Cup forever. This is the story of the African teams that transformed football history. 1. The Pioneers, 1934 to 1978. Long before African teams became household names, qualifying for the World Cup was almost impossible. Political inequality, limited resources, and unfair qualification systems kept many African nations away from football's biggest stage. Egypt became Africa's first World Cup representative in 1934. But after that, African football was largely ignored. In protest against FIFA's qualification rules, African countries even boycotted the 1966 World Cup qualifiers. Their message was simple: Africa deserved respect. Eventually, FIFA listened. Beginning in 1970, Africa was guaranteed at least one place at every World Cup. It was the beginning of a new era. 2. Cameroon shocks the world, 1990. Footage of Roger Milla celebrating with his famous corner flag dance. Then came one of football's greatest fairy tales. Italy, defending champions Argentina, led by Diego Maradona, faced Cameroon in the tournament opener. Almost everyone expected an easy Argentine victory. Instead, Cameroon stunned the world. A 1-0 victory changed everything. Roger Milla, already 38 years old, became the tournament's biggest star. His iconic dance at the corner flag became a global celebration. Cameroon reached the quarterfinals, the first African nation ever to do so. They came within minutes of reaching the semifinals before England edged them out in extra time. The impossible suddenly looked possible. 3. Nigeria's golden generation, 1994 and 1998. The next revolution came from Nigeria. Nicknamed the Super Eagles, they arrived in the United States in 1994 playing fearless, attacking football. They defeated Bulgaria, beat Greece, won their group on their first ever World Cup appearance. The football world had discovered another African powerhouse. 4 years later in France, Nigeria shocked Spain in one of the greatest World Cup upsets ever. Trailing 2-1, they scored 3 unanswered goals. Spain, one of Europe's favorites, were eliminated. Nigeria had announced that African football belonged among the elite. 4. Senegal humiliates the champions, 2002. South Korea and Japan, the opening match. World champions France versus tournament debutants Senegal. No one gave Senegal a chance, but Papa Bouba Diop had other plans. His winning goal stunned millions around the world. France, the reigning champions, lost 1-0. Senegal eventually reached the quarterfinals, just like Cameroon 12 years earlier. Africa was no longer producing surprises. It was producing contenders. 5. Ghana carries a continent, 2010. South Africa hosted Africa's first ever World Cup. The continent dreamed of history. One by one, African teams were eliminated, until only Ghana remained. The Black Stars carried the hopes of more than 1 billion Africans. They defeated the United States, reached the quarterfinals. Then came one of football's most unforgettable matches, Uruguay, 120th minute. Dominic Adia's header was heading into the net. Luis Suarez deliberately handled the ball on the goal line. He was sent off. Ghana received a penalty. Asamoah Gyan stepped forward. The entire continent held its breath. His shot struck the crossbar. Uruguay survived. They won the penalty shootout. Africa's dream of a semi-final was gone. But Ghana had inspired an entire generation. Many still believe that moment changed African football forever. 6. Morocco makes history, 2022. Then, history was finally rewritten. Qatar. Morocco began as outsiders, but they defeated Belgium, eliminated Spain, knocked out Portugal, reached the semifinals. No African nation, no Arab nation had ever gone that far. Their incredible journey united Africa, the Arab world, and millions of neutral fans. Players celebrated with their mothers. Communities celebrated together. Football witnessed one of its greatest underdog stories. Although France ended Morocco's dream, the Atlas Lions had already changed history forever. 7. The New Generation, 2026. The 2026 FIFA World Cup marked another important chapter for African football. With the tournament expanding to 48 teams, more African nations earned the opportunity to compete on the world's biggest stage. Several African teams reached the knockout rounds, showing the continent's growing depth and quality. Even when some were eliminated, their performances demonstrated that African football is no longer judged by participation alone. It is measured by its ability to challenge the world's best. The dream of an African World Cup champion no longer feels impossible. It feels like a matter of time. 8. Why Africa keeps changing football. African football brings something unique: fearlessness, passion, creativity, unpredictability. Many of today's biggest stars learned their football on dusty streets before dazzling the world's biggest stadiums. Players like Didier Drogba, Samuel Eto'o, Yaya Touré, Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane, Victor Osimhen, Achraf Hakimi, Thomas Partey, Andre Ayew. These stars inspired millions of young footballers across Africa to believe they belonged on the biggest stage. And every World Cup creates another generation of dreamers. History remembers champions. But sometimes, history remembers courage even more. Cameroon taught the world that African teams could defeat giants. Nigeria proved African football belonged among the elite. Senegal shocked the defending champions. Ghana carried an entire continent's hopes. Morocco broke barriers no one thought possible. Each team left something behind. Not just victories, not just memories, but belief. One day, an African nation may lift the FIFA World Cup. When that moment comes, it won't be an overnight miracle. It will be the result of decades of courage, sacrifice, heartbreak, and unforgettable performances that changed football forever. Because history isn't made in a single match. It's built one generation at a time. Question of the day: which African World Cup team inspired you the most? Cameroon 1990, Nigeria 1994, Senegal 2002, Ghana 2010, Morocco 2022, or another unforgettable squad?